I know what you're thinking, guys. You love the Floyd, but it's such a pain to keep working smoothly. I've had a love-hate relationship with my guitar and the Floyd Rose on it for a long time. This is probably the third or fourth guitar that I've bought and sold that had a Floyd on it, thinking, okay, that's it, I'm done with Floyds. But I keep coming back. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in. So if you've ever tried to intonate this type of a Floyd Rose bridge, you know how finicky they can be. The entire system is a floating system, right? So it's very, very sensitive. And if you don't do it right, it can be a pain. You can lose hours trying to do it. I'm going to show you a very cool tool that I found. I'm holding it in my hands right now. This tiny thing is a game changer. Nobody's got time to waste, right? Today I'm going to be showing you how I go about setting up the intonation on this guitar. We're going to be jumping over to my messy workbench in a second, and I'm going to show you a very cool, indispensable tool that I found to make it so much more easy and quick. This is the Charvel that I got recently, and as you know, once you have a new guitar, you're going to want to make sure that the bridge is intonated. And when you're intonating a Floyd, it's not exactly the easiest thing or the most pleasant thing in the world. But I'm going to show you a cool tool that I found that will make this a whole lot easier. It's this guy right here. This is a little tool that you can buy from StewMac. This little tool will save you so much headaches because it allows you to make sure that everything is intonated properly. Okay, and to do this, you're going to want to have a few things. You're going to want to have some kind of a tuner. This is my favorite tuner, Strobo Stomp HD from Peterson. This can also be purchased from StewMac. I highly recommend getting something like this because it is so sensitive. It will allow you to get in there and get the intonation pretty much bang on, okay? I'll explain that in a little bit as we go. You'll also need some of these guys to make sure that you have everything loosened up. So you're going to need one for your bridge saddle. You're going to need for this little hex screw right there. You're going to have to loosen that. And I also recommend that you guys loosen up this. A lot of people end up trying to intonate a guitar while this is still locked down. I prefer to do it when it's not locked down. Intonate everything, then lock it back down. It just, to me, works better. It makes more sense to do it that way. Okay, so how about we get started on this and I'll explain to you how I like to do it. Now, if you want to do it some other way, that's fantastic. If it works for you, great. This is how I do it, and it's been working for me like this for years, so why change it? I like to make sure something is in place to avoid any kind of scratches from happening, because you could accidentally drop the tool and cause issues, and that wouldn't be fun. Then we can go ahead and place this little guy here. The little channel here is gonna grip the metal portion between the two adjustment screws here, and the little hook part here is gonna be pulling back on the long screw that is basically at the bottom. So you're gonna want to make sure it's in there. So if it's too long, you just shorten it up. Once it's in there, like so, you're just gonna want to screw this till you start feeling some tension. Okay, so the tension basically means it's pulling back on that little screw. When it's finger tight and you can't really pull it back much more, then you're good. So at that stage, you can loosen up that screw. And these are typically very tight, so you have to put them as tight once you're finished, so your string and your bridge won't slide. So remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey, okay? So you're gonna loosen this thing up. Now, once that's done, then we're gonna want to tune up the guitar. I don't know if you can see that or not. So if I hit the string, I'm already a little bit flat here. So I'm going to just tighten that up. And I'm using tuning machines, not these at this stage. So as you can see, this thing is pretty sensitive. So the thing about this type of tuner is that it's always going to move. Okay, if you can get it dead on, it's going to stand still. Very difficult to do, but you want to try and get as close to the little wheel standing still as you can. And when you're doing this, make sure you're not putting any pressure on the strings or the bridge. Otherwise, you're going to think you're in tune, but you're actually not. Okay, once we have that pretty much still, where still as it's going to be, then on this side of things, we're going to want to hit the E string. And then we can see whether or not we're sharp or flat. If the wheel is going up, we're sharp. If it's going down, we're flat. So in this case, we're a little bit sharp, which means the string is actually too short, which means we're going to have to pull back on this guy just a little bit. And this is where the magic happens, because this will allow us to do that. So what we're going to want to do, I usually press down on the bar, and then the reason I do that is to give some slack, and then just pull by tightening the little wheel. You might never really be 100% dead on where this thing is standing completely still because it's so sensitive, but you want to try and be as close as you can. So as you can see, that's pretty darn close. And then fretting at the 12th fret, doing the same thing, that's good enough for me. The reason I like the Strobe Stomp HD from Peterson is because it is so sensitive. And when you're, practically standing still, that is pretty darn close. Other tuners will just light up, so you won't really know how close you actually are. This one spins because it is a strobe tuner, so you can actually get a visual representation of how close you actually are. So once you're in tune, you're intonated, then you can lock down that little screw. I already did that. As you can see, the little tool is off already. And then once that's done, you can lock everything up at the nut position right over here. Make sure these are nice and tight so nothing slips. It's very, very difficult to get a guitar with a Floyd, especially a floating system like a Floyd, in tune for very long. Eventually, it's gonna go out of tune again. The strings are gonna stretch, things are gonna move, dive bombs, all that good stuff. So you're gonna probably have to redo this eventually. Now, I highly recommend you do all of this with the guitar in the playing position, because believe it or not, just having the guitar on a neck rest like this will cause the neck to bow under its own weight, and just that alone can throw off the intonation when you're actually setting things up. So if you're really, really picky and you really want to get as close to being perfect as possible, I recommend you do this in the playing position. This tool makes things a whole lot easier, folks. Yes, you can do it the old-fashioned way with your fingers, but why would you want to? Well worth the investment. These are not that expensive. You can get them off the StewMac website. These are made specifically for Floyd Rose systems. So if you have a different type of bridge, this might not work for you. Okay, so you're gonna have to make sure you have the right one for your bridge. These are made for Floyds. So when you're doing this, this for me is essential and makes things a whole lot easier. This is also, for me, essential. This is my favorite tuner right now, just because it's so sensitive. You can also get this off StewMac, and it's well worth the investment. So setting up the intonation on your Floyd doesn't have to be a headache as long as you have the proper tools. I'm going to link to the tool that I use in this video down below. And I'm also going to link to this. This is the strobe tuner that I showed you in the video, because this thing to me is also a game changer, and you really need both, or you should use both, to get the optimal results. Hey, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'm happy to answer them. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do. There'll be more videos coming up. See you soon.